Hey guys, today I'm going to be painting Moira from Massive Darkness. Here I'm just showing you how I'm using kind of the hot water trick to fix her little staff here. It's a really long and skinny pole and some kind of heavier fire there, so just a little bit of fixing there. I always show these kind of, trimming the flash. If I have to fix a mold line, I do that. If I had to assemble these guys, I'd probably even show that. I'm not sure. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. I enjoy kind of the hobby of miniatures and not just necessarily the painting. I like, kind of cleaning them up and making them look nice, and honestly, this is part of it, and if you don't show it, it's kind of hiding it in a way. Seen some discussions lately on some of the Kickstarters about showing resin or 3D versus what you get with the PVC plastic, and, I guess not everybody really realizes how much time something like trimming this flash could take. Now, for Moira, it was actually pretty quick and easy, which I kind of liked. We're going to start out with some brass right on the actual kind of, staff scepter part. It's just a very quick thing. I like that this is such a bright metallic, just because it's very drastic in color, which is very kind of nice and kind of cool. And I like that it looks a bit cleaner of a metal because of it. And I feel of the people down in this dungeon, she's probably the cleanest of the bunch almost. Some Naggaroth Knight for the pretty much all of the cloths and clothes that she has. Now, it is kind of oddly designed here on the sides. She has these little kind of slits on the side for whatever reason, I don't know. It's more noticeable in the art. If you recall in the concept art, you could see it. But it is there, so I painted over it, either on accident or through laziness. Actually, I just didn't really even realize it was there. I had to go back and in the concept art I saw it, and then I got the mini close to my face and looked, and oh, sure enough, it's right there on the side. She's got this kind of head brace wrap thing. I don't know what it is. It looks really weird, in my opinion, but it's there, so I'm going to paint it. And right here in the back, moving, it's hard to decide when it ends and her horns begin, but, it's whatever. Painting in between all of these can be a little hard. I definitely suggest doing this first, because you're going to get a little messy. I mean, even if I had an insane detail brush out, I'd still make a mess. That's essentially doing a whole bunch of eyes almost, right? It's not a whole lot. Now, her skirt, by the way, I love the design of this mini. I know a lot of people don't, but I think she's really, really cool because she's so unique. So she's got like, I think a lot of people think it's a boring pose, but I think it's really, really fascinating because she's kind of like leaning on this pole, but even like where her arm is going back behind her leaning, and she's got these swords, but they're not even out. She's got 3 of them for like whatever reason. And the fire's billowing on there, and she's got these huge horns and these straight out ear things, and her skirt is like this, I don't know what to say, because it's almost like it's hiked up, but it's not. It's a shorter and then more bowed out, almost like the schoolgirl outfits in anime you always see, right? It's almost like that, except, probably longer, but I don't know, it's a very cool shape, and I think just all around pretty unique. So this is just a whole bunch of purple. As you can see, it's very thick. This definitely is like billowing out. It's almost like she just like landed like Mary Poppins style or something, and so it was like flowing out or something, I don't know. I probably got the physics wrong there. So I am filming pretty close here, by the way, so every now and then it's going to go out of focus. I do, as you can see, tend to fix it. Now, don't forget her little kind of arm wrappings here. She doesn't want to get too cold down in the dungeon, right? And so she's got to have those kind of arm wraps there. And, she doesn't want to scuff an elbow or anything. And so I totally forgot about her feet, so this is now a separate filming thing just to get her feet in there. So yeah, pretty much 2/3 of the way done just with Naggaroth Knight. Here's Abaddon Black. This is this kind of pure black for her horns. Now, normally you would probably highlight this up, especially with the texture it has. Because I'm going to do my first object source lighting, or OSL, on this model, I feel like I don't need to, because I'm going to get a little bit of that depth from that as well. I don't know. It's debatable. Either way, they're pretty dark. And then now her ears, that's not all her ears. There's actually like an ear covering that's in like the back and top. At least that's how I see it, and that's what it kind of looks like in the concept art. So that's what I'm doing here. So her ears are actually just kind of, they're still kind of poked out and pointy, just smaller. Gehenna's gold. I chose to do the gold instead of the brass just to, make it a little bit of a more dark and orangey kind of metallic, separate from the brass staff that she has. You could probably go either way and then just add some like shadow or whatever, but I'm not going to do any kind of shadowing on it at all. And so I just picked a different color. And those are also on kind of the hilts of the scabbards there. But except for one, so there's only 2 of them have that kind of weird kind of cap design, and the other is the smaller one closer to her arm is just kind of a square one. Pallid Witch Flesh. This is probably my least favorite to paint. I don't know if it's just my Citadel pot or what, but it's chunky. Actually, every white color of any kind that I've got from Citadel is chunky. Maybe it's just my luck. I don't know. I buy them from a Warhammer store, so it's not like they're like, they shouldn't be old or anything. Anyway, but she's like super pale. She's like the goth hero almost, with the purple and super pale, right? So I guess that's kind of cool. It'd be really cool to give her like really gothic makeup perhaps, but oh well, it's whatever. But so this paint isn't that bad. It's just it's kind of odd, but it's a good color. It's this kind of soft white, a little bit of a green hue I feel to it, but just ever so slightly. It's actually really, really good. And I'm not gonna highlight it. Not that you really could at all, but her skin is so I don't want to say soft, but so plain. Like there's not a lot of there's no real creases or wrinkles or anything like that. And I'm going to add the face details, so that would just kind of leave her hands there, which I feel are actually pretty okay. So I'm not even going to bother messing with it. You could maybe, I don't know, maybe you could do something to it. But she's also very tiny of a model. Like her size is fine, but she herself is she's really skinny. And because she has this big staff and everything, she's just actually kind of tiny. I feel even smaller than some of the other heroes. So even like when I did Zoe, who's like a dwarf or a hobbit, or I don't know, she's really short and squat. But maybe because she's squat, she just seemed a lot thicker and a lot more detail here. But painting this is pretty easy. Even those sides, as you can see, I didn't have a hard time with it. And those lines are there on the model, on the mini, so you can see that quite well. Make sure to give those little ears, but all I have is a character brush out, and I think I did pretty okay. Here's some Abaddon Black. This is just for the belts that those scabbards are kind of hanging on, and she has also got some like baskets, which again, speaking of the sculpt and just the design of the character, she's got baskets instead of bags, which I love. Because it's so typical to see bags, right? Because, bags are useful. But she's got 3 baskets on her back, which are just, I don't know, it's neat. It's cool. I mean, I imagine as a sorceress, I don't know, is she like holding like frogs in there or something? Is there like insects and animals in there? Or like poultices? Or I don't know. But either way, the baskets I also get a kick out of, just because they're different and unique. The belt, it's really easy to get. Even with the black, I was kind of worried about it, but the belt is raised enough, and there's just a little bit going around there, but it's fine. Okay, and I'm just putting a little bit more of that Gehenna's gold. I noticed back on the concept art this kind of, I don't know what it is, a trinket of some kind, kind of coming off of her belt. So that's going to be in the Gehenna's gold, but then I'm going to bring out the Steel Legion Drab, and that's going to actually be on the scabbard portion itself. Just kind of a muted brown, I suppose. I mean, it's not... It's very plain, but perhaps it's a little bit darker. But for me right now, with my paints to get darker than this, I would either have to self-darken it, which I tend not to like to do, because I'm a terrible person. So that would have been Rhinox Hide, and that's too dark. Baneblade Brown on this. I'm not painting a Baneblade Brown right now. I'm using Rakarth Flesh, thinking that I can make it look closer to a more straw-like material. But I didn't end up happy with it. So off camera, I'm going to change it to Baneblade Brown. So that's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to list on my paint list on Patreon. That's what it's going to state as well. If you really like this, you can do the Rakarth Flesh. But I thought it looked too... It didn't bring out the detail that I wanted of the baskets, because they actually have some good texture there. That I'm going to put wash over, and that'll make it kind of pop. But yeah, I was not happy with it just being this kind of very blah kind of color, so I'm going to change that. But again, really easy to paint, not too bad. Red leather. This is a little bit of a color pop, which I like, and I'm going to put this on kind of the hilt wrap here. So just 3 little bits there, nothing too too drastic. I'm putting white here just to show that I am highlighting now, so I do have a little bit of white mixed. I did not do a wash, which kind of surprising for me because I actually have a purple wash that I think would have worked really well, but I wanted this character to be a bit lighter, and so I wanted that Naggaroth Knight to be as dark as it got in the shadow, and then just bring it up from there. So, you know, I don't know. It would have made looking back on it perhaps, strategically putting the wash perhaps in the kind of like, the dimples, I don't know what to call them, the little kind of rough parts of the skirt towards the bottom where it kind of goes in. Maybe that would have been okay, but I felt like, I don't know, then it would have popped out too much. So instead I just kind of ignore it, and I'll highlight kind of around it and all that, and you know, so I'm not like putting any highlight in there. Either way, I think it came out fine at the end, so I'm happy with it. But you could put a wash in here and quickly add some shadow if the Naggaroth Knight wasn't dark enough for you, or if you just perhaps wanted a bigger range of color, because I actually don't put a whole bunch of highlights on here. This is pretty much all I do, and I think it comes out pretty well. So you're just getting every single flow there. Make sure to get kind of the top of the chest there, and then the actual kind of points on them. I'm not worried about the OSL and doing it with purple. I'll do that with the actual kind of glow of it, so a different color there. But she's got plenty of texture, even on like up her neck and in the back and around her head, and a lot more than you would think. But that skirt especially, you know, there's a lot there. I'm artificially adding highlights on the top and bottom of the armbands because they don't have it as much. They have some a little bit around the elbow, but then that's it, and it would look odd to be flat otherwise. So I just kind of add some as kind of an outline. And again, be sure to get the shoes. I like to highlight the backs of shoes. I'm not sure why. I feel like they probably wouldn't too often, but I do. Flash Glitz Yellow. This is a very bright yellow. I'm going to paint the entire fire this way. And I'm really doing this fire and using only 2 colors plus a wash very minimally. I think it turned out really well. I'm actually really happy with it. So I'm going to go back now to the Seraphim Sepia, and this is putting it over that Rakarth flesh, which I'm not happy with. So again, I will change this kind of off camera, but that's close to what I want, but not quite. Some Dorn Yellows. This is an edge color, and I'm just doing this to give her a glow in her eyes. So she has kind of this eye glow, which is kind of cool, and it's very faint. And so this is actually quite faint. Now, you can, looking at the model, you can see it, and this harsh lighting really kind of hides it. Now, this right here is terrible. So she has this lipstick on, but the Minnie's lips are atrocious. I mean, look at that. She looks like she's wearing like duck lips or something. I don't know what happened, but they're just like splayed out, just like that dog. She looks like that dog, and I don't know why. So I kind of ditched that idea. So as you can see, there's just a little bit of coloration in her lips now, and that's it. And I tried and then gave up and settled for that. Evil Sunz Scarlet. This is for the red. This is just kind of the you know, it's going to be more yellow and actually a little bit brighter inside, and then it kind of gets darker on the outside. And so I'm adding this red to kind of the tips and some of the kind of parts that puff out, like in the middle there, you can kind of see. And then even a little bit like where it's billowing before it turns, right? So kind of right there near the start. Just kind of doing it where I think. Now on my wet palette, now I'm mixing the two. So I have them both together and I'm kind of splaying them around. Perhaps I should have shown this, but I think you guys have probably seen enough painting videos to where you know what I'm talking about. And it's pretty simple. You essentially get the 2 colors and kind of, you know, meld them together, almost like you're wet blending. And then slowly bring it, you know, closer and closer. And I do leave a little bit of that still pure Flash Glitz Yellow. This is that Dorn Yellow that's very white light. I didn't want to do pure white, but I wanted these kind of hot spots and kind of where it goes the deepest, as if like there's this really hot core that's then billowing out. So it goes from this really bright white yellow to kind of the yellow to this orange to this red. And then I'm going to darken the red later. This is me kind of bringing that glow down the brass and then onto her arm. Now, I went way too heavy on that arm, and there was no coming back from that, sadly, and I didn't spend the time fixing it. I was hoping this dry brush would fix it. On second thought, I would probably not suggest dry brushing the OSL effect, or at least being smarter about it. So I'm literally just taking this glow color that I just used and running this throughout the whole miniature. Again, now with OSL, I'm just trying to imagine how the light would create kind of a glow around the stick and then onto her. And I'm exaggerating it a bit. I always like the exaggeration here. Astro granite debris on the base as normal. As for the OSL effect, I tend to like the dramatic effect more than maybe a realistic one. So I tend to go a bit heavy on it. This is my first time doing it. I tend to like when other people go heavy on it, so I did the same. I did end up going again off camera with an actual brush and brightening it up. At the very end, you'll see there's a lot more to it than what I just did. And actually, you can actually see that I already started right here. So this is just some rocks, they're kind of cobblestones or whatever. It's whatever. I'm gonna paint that in that Steel Legion Drab. This seems as scabbards. I could use Baneblade Brown for this as well. It's just the color I pick. You can do whatever, but I think this fits fairly okay with the board game tiles itself. But nothing too major there. You just kind of have to be a little bit careful, I suppose. Administratum Gray. This is just to bring out that texture. I put this over the rocks as well. It kind of helps blend them together, which I like, and kind of brings out any texture that those rocks might have. And now I'm putting on the glow onto the bottom. So first I just picked kind of a red, or again it's that mix, and then I brought it a little bit more yellow, and then I mixed in a little bit more, and then finally I took just some Flat Chocolate's yellow and did the lightest dry brush I've ever done in my life. So there was almost no paint on that, and it just kind of, the little tips are just barely almost a hint of yellow. It did add quite a lot though. It was a good step to have. Agrax Earthshade. So like I said, I was going to darken this up. This is to kind of give a sense of a kind of a smokiness, right? Like it's almost kind of billowing into smoke. Here it's really bright. You'll see in just a little bit when I do the little turntable, closer to how it looks in real life. It is a little bit darker, and it's not quite dry here yet. But I'm putting that pretty much anywhere there's red, and only where there's red. I'm not really bringing that into the orange or anything like that. This is just to show that I put a matte coat on it, and here is the finished mini. This is Moira from Massive Darkness. Guys, let me know what you think. I was super excited. I love that fire, by the way. I think I did great in the fire, and I'm really happy with it. The OSL effect looks much better in person than it does here, zoomed in super close with the hardest lighting you can possibly imagine. At least, especially on like the shoulder and stuff. I think even her skirt here looks pretty okay. But in person, I think it looks pretty good. Again, it's my first time. If you have any feedback or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. I'd love to try it again because I think it's a really cool technique that I want to start using more often whenever I get the chance, really. But anyway, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. I always appreciate it. Leave a comment below, give me some feedback, what you think about her face, or again, as you can see, those lips are just I don't know if it's just my miniature that did that and it was a mess up, or if everybody's is, but there's not a lot you can do with those lips. Anyway, guys, thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed this painting. I just got about 20 more paints in, so I have a ton more paints to work with, so I hope to, get some more color variation in there soon. Anyway, guys, thanks so much, and I'll talk to you again next time.